This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call to order our regular scheduled Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, December the 15th at 12 noon for our Isothermal Planning and Development Commission. First off, could we have a moment of silence, please? A Pledge of Allegiance. We have a flag behind Scott there, so if we could have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All righty, Carol Pritchard and Scott Nelson, do they have a presentation? Scott Dadson?
Yep. Yes, sir, they do.
All righty.
If you'll put up the legislative agenda, and Mayor Pritchard, if you could take the reins.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's delightful to be here. Merry Christmas to everyone. Sorry you can't be in person, but this is the next best thing, isn't it? It's been such a journey this fall, as everyone met on a number of different times and co-chaired it with Mayor Scott Neisler. As everyone gathered together their suggestions and their aspirations from their every part of the isothermal region, from all the towns and municipalities, to find those things that truly represented the things that we would like to be a part of the regional legislative agenda. So I'll just go through some of them with you now. There were many of them. We deliberated and we prioritized, we moved things around, we changed things to make them more reflective so that they represented everything that each of us needs. We basically divided into different categories, the first being, and certainly one of the things that's foremost on everyone's mind, and that's the coronavirus pandemic response. So we know, of course, on our horizon, we have hope as the vaccines, one is already approved and the other will be approved hopefully in the next couple of days. But we certainly recognize that coronavirus is just one part of our public health and pandemic response. So in that vein, under the first category, one of the things we would like to propose is to advocate for continued federal and state level support for local governments in budget shortfalls and negative impacts because of the coronavirus pandemic. And secondly, to classify the coronavirus pandemic as a disaster preparedness issue and utilize COGS and commissions as the training arm for future disaster preparedness efforts, including making COGS commissions eligible for FEMA disaster funding grants. So this was certainly something that was far-reaching, and it was one that was near and dear to everyone's heart and was prioritized very high up. But as we move forward, making sure that we are prepared for the next disaster that should occur, whether it's another infectious disease or some other type of disaster. The next category that we looked at was economic, community, and workforce development. And under that, in that category, number one, promote expanded financial opportunities to improve broadband connectivity throughout the isothermal region to ensure the region is competitive in economic, community, and workforce development opportunities. In addition, to advocate for local governments to have the authority to connect broadband opportunities to communities, particularly the more rural communities in the isothermal region, which have been, and that goes a little bit with the pandemic too, that was certainly brought to the forefront in everyone's mind as we grapple with things like education, accessibility for our students during the COVID pandemic. Also to ensure financial support for broadband, water, wastewater, and stormwater, and other public infrastructure to include electric, dams, roads, and parks, infrastructure projects within the isothermal region. To Support continued funding for the USDA Rural Development Programs. Appalachian Regional Commission, ARC, advocating for the inclusion of Cleveland County in the ARC region. To utilize COGS commissions as a liaison between the state and local government in legislative decisions and through state programs where appropriate. To provide consistent NCDOT funding for streetscaping projects in the prioritization progress or through grant funding. And lastly, to prioritize funding and policies that support the development of workforce housing in the region to further encourage and promote economic development. So under that umbrella, a number of things that were important to everybody. So moving to the next category, and this was something once again that was embraced by everyone in the isothermal region: broadband and broadband deployment. And I know this is something that we've all been grappling with, particularly in the rural areas, certainly in Lake Lure. So continue to advocate for expanded funding to provide broadband in the isothermal region to increase education opportunities, economic and workforce development, and COVID-19 response. And I think that is going to be, we've always needed it for the first ones, but we never realized what the partnership was between the COVID response and, say, education opportunities and the ability for people to work from home. Support expansion of accessible, affordable, high-speed fiber and mobile broadband throughout the isothermal region, utilizing the COGS commissions as a resource, and to promote expanded broadband opportunities that allow municipal entities to implement affordable high-speed internet in the isothermal region without the reliance of private entities. So certainly that is something that is important to the entire region. The next thing that we looked at as we tried to find those things that were the highest priority was human services. Support increased funding to alleviate the stress on human services, such as healthcare and mental health, because of the coronavirus pandemic. Continue to promote financial support to help alleviate the substance abuse epidemic, which is, we know, even prior to the coronavirus pandemic, certainly something that is very serious in the isothermal region. Seek methods to provide funding for disaster preparedness and emergency plan coordination efforts that pertain to human services. Next, the public infrastructure. Continue to seek funding for infrastructure improvements around the isothermal region for critical projects, including the Lake Lure Dam and sewer system, of course, very near to my heart. Continue to seek interstate status for US 74 from I-26 in Polk County through Cleveland County to I-95, an important, very important corridor. Seek methods to increase the current level of NCDOT Division 13 and 14 maintenance funds, including pavement rehabilitation and bridge repair. Continue to seek increased funding opportunities to support improved water and wastewater utility infrastructure throughout the region, particularly for aging infrastructure projects that have been identified by the local government commission as a priority. And as we know, so many of our infrastructure is in that category of aging and certainly in need of a repair or replacement. Seek legislation to ensure that the amount of Powell bill funds appropriated by the state are sustained and distributions to municipalities in the isothermal region increase and grow over time. And the next category, one that has a lot of ramifications as we look at our economy and certainly our ability to encourage people to move to be part of the workforce. Prioritize the importance of critical federal investment in the isothermal region via HUD or other agencies in housing assistance in the isothermal region. Promote legislation that provides additional tools and financial resources for addressing the affordable housing crisis. Support increasing the level of funding for the Home and Community Care Block Grant, the HUD VASH program, and the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher program. Assist local governments in finding sustainable and affordable options for housing rehabilitation in existing neighborhoods and in providing multimodal transportation options to connect affordable housing developments to employment and cultural centers. Continue and support marketing education efforts seeking to inform protected class members about their rights and fair housing in general, working to reduce language barriers and to provide translation services. And as far as our regional commissions and councils goes, advocate for the establishment of COGS commissions as a unit of local government, to define COGS commissions as eligible recipients of grants wherever local governments are eligible. Continue to promote stronger regional approaches to issues. For example, hazard mitigation, disaster recovery, and resiliency planning. There were so many other thoughts and concerns and possible projects that we wanted to present to the legislations, but I think it was a very good collaborative effort on everyone's part to be sort of unselfishly dedicated to finding those things that represented the need of the entire isothermal region. So we present these to you today for your consideration, and hope that we will be able to submit these as part of the 2020 regional legislative agenda to the Assembly. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Do we need a motion to accept this, or?
It is part of your, it's on your agenda to go ahead and adopt this.
Okay.
It is.
All right, it's down on item 6. Do you want to go ahead and adopt it now? And
Fred, this is Jimmy Nancy. I got a question.
right.
Carol, this is Jimmy over in Rutherford. I noticed up there you was talking about the interstate recognition for 74, and it mentioned connecting I-26 in Polk County and I-85, and it says goes through Cleveland County. I believe it goes through Rutherford County also, does it not?
You're right. You're absolutely right. So we'll need to make that, Sarah, can we make that edit? Thank you so much for bringing it, Jim. Thank you very much.
I apologize for that oversight, Mayor Dancy.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else that anybody picked out? All right. Why don't we go ahead and adopt this now while we're on this subject, and then we'll just move item 6 up behind item 1. Is that okay, Scott?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have a motion to adopt the 2021 legislative agenda.
This is Jimmy Nancy in Rutherford. I make that motion.
Thank you, Jimmy. Have a second?
Doug Bridges, I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. How do you want to vote this, Scott? You want each person to sound off and tell who they are?
I think that would be best. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go through. Fred?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Max? Okay. Ashley?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Bob Boyette?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Jack Scheidel?
Yes.
Max?
Yes.
That'll be everyone. That's unanimous, sir.
Thank you. All right.
Finally got
Go
turned on.
ahead. What'd you say, Max?
I said I finally got my microphone turned on, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good.
Thank you all very much. We all appreciate certainly your support. Thank you.
And thank you for all your hard work on putting that together, you and Scott both. Next item on the agenda is to approval of the September 15 board minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve. Max.
Thank you, Max. Second.
Second, Jack Shuttle.
Thank you, Jack. All right, Scott.
Yes, sir. Jack,
Yes.
Max,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
let's see, Carol. She's nodding
Shook her
yes.
head. She shook her head.
Bob Boyette,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Doug.
Yes.
Believe that's everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, unanimous.
Okay, quarterly financials, Thad,
Max.
you're up.
All right, Thad, you're up now. Sarah, can we please put up the financials? Scheidel. Yeah, we're going to go down to the financials, please.
Right here, that.
Yes.
So what you have before you are is a snapshot of the finances as of 11/12/20. You would expect it to be about 33% expended, our budget, and you see the highest anything is around 24%. So all of the expenditures as far as to budget are in good shape. Sarah, if you'll go to the next page.
I'm going to point to it.
Yeah, this is our working cash balance. The area that Scott's pointing to right there is where we stand as of August 31st. So you can see how we stack up prior years. According to those, 1920, we were maybe a little better off, and in 1819, but we're still outpacing most of the years in recent history. And then there's one more page. And this was for the budget amendment. We've had 2 revisions to date. The first one was for $1,321,646, and then the second one for $23,000. This $23,000 is Dogwood Health Trust grant, and it actually came in through the aging department and will be used to serve their clients. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to address them. If not, that's the finance section.
Do you need approval of budget amendments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would ask for a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented.
This is Bob. Move approval.
Thank you, Bob. Have a second.
I'll
Second.
second. Max.
Max Hopper seconds. All right, Scott, you want to call it out?
Yes, sir, I will. Fred,
Yes.
Jack,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Rick, Doug,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Max. Max, was that a yes?
Turn it back on, Max.
There you go. You're on.
I heard the answer once.
Can't hear you.
Well, you're not allowed to vote against a motion if you second it anyway, are you?
It would be highly unlikely, I would think.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a yes from Mr. Hopper. Would that
Yeah,
be
I think
correct?
so. You know,
Emily?
Yes.
we don't know what we don't know, Scott.
That I have learned that from Mr. Hopper. You are correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. The next section is a resolution regarding the 5-year housing plan for isothermal. Steve, you're not the author of the resolution itself, but you put everybody through the process. We have here 2 actions for the board in this resolution. If you could speak to them. First is the adoption of the 5-year plan. The second, the board adopts the single annual plan for 2020. And we've made them so that everyone knows we've made them an attachment to your resolution. So all the detail with this. Steve, if you could give an overview about how we got from there to here. And Pam is with me as well. Pam, why don't you come on up?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So over the last several months, myself and my team have been working with Pam and her team to prepare the new 5-year and annual plan for the housing department at IPDC. This is something that we have to do, of course, every 5 years for HUD. It kind of lays out the vision for the department for the next 5 years. In addition, at the same time, we did the annual plan, which has to be done every year, which kind of analyzes how things have gone over the prior year. So while the 5-year plan we created looks forward, the actual annual plan that we have completed looks back on how we did over the last year and the last 5-year plan. So this has been up for public review. We've only gotten a few comments, no substantive changes from anything that has been open to public view for probably or close to 2 months now. And once you all adopt the 2 plans, the next step will just be to submit it to HUD for their approval. And then that'll be it. We will have our 5-year plan. I would like to point out that this 5-year plan is different from prior years in that we've taken a more inclusive look at housing in the 5-year plan and really look to try to see how we can expand IPDC's scope to promote fair, equitable, affordable housing across the 4 counties. And particularly, we've put in there that the 5-year housing plan will coincide with the work being done by the housing task force that is currently working right now. So we've kind of taken a more global look at things, and we think that we've positioned the housing department and IPDC in a really good place for the next 5 years with this plan.
Thank you, Steve.
Any questions for Steve?
You need a vote on your plan or not?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
to approve the resolution, sir.
Okay. I will accept a nomination to accept the resolution.
This is Emily Sisk. I make a motion to approve the plans.
Thank you, Emily. We have a second.
This is Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Scott. I
All
say
right.
yes. I say yes.
Okay, Fred says yes. Jack Scheidel,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Rick? Yes. Emily,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Max,
I raised my hand.
Jimmy, and Doug.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous, sir.
Thank you very much. Next is the IPDC 2020 annual report.
If you'll recall, this is this December meeting serves as our annual meeting, and both on the phone and with me today in the audience behind, you'll see, there's Thad and Laura. Laura, wave your hand. And Pam, we're all here, and then Steve is, of course, online. This is our annual report. The objective of this is we're going to go through it, but we're going to keep, each of our division heads are going to report out on their sections, and then we'll keep it brief. We intend to then put this into a booklet and have that booklet online so people can review the annual report. So this is the annual report for this past fiscal year and for the current calendar year. Sarah, if you could move through the slides. Next one, please. Next. Next. Okay, just as a reminder to everyone, and this is something that we relearned again this year, we had to go through it with our EDD application to Economic Development Administration. Believe it or not, we were formed actually in 1961 under ARC, and then formally under GS 158 as an Economic Development Commission in 1966, and then again in 1969. Sarah, can we have that as a? Then again in 1969 under Article 153A, which was to make it a Planning and Development Commission in addition to economic development. So also in that year, the governor of the state, Bob Scott at that time, went ahead and did a executive order that has never since 1969 been overturned to name all 17 COGs in the state, COGs and LDD, or lead development organizations. So there's some semantics about our history. There are 16 current COGs in the state of North Carolina. Next, please. And that's where they all are. We're number C, or as Max likes to call us, we are the sitting goat. And for those of you that can look at the way the 4 counties come together, you'll understand that joke. Next, please. The idea of regional councils is really to share information, to avoid duplication efforts, and try to coordinate services across a regional platform, promote cooperation, help improve the quality of life, and work through a single agency to obtain federal and state agency fundings that may or may not come to each of our individual members. And that's one of the benefits. And of course, you all being at the table, you can see over the last year things like the Housing Task Force, other efforts that we've done economic development wise, such as the EDD, opportunity funds and things like that. So those are some of the benefits. Next, please. I think everybody knows who we are. The 4 counties, Cleveland, McDowell, Polk, and Rutherford. Interestingly enough, Mr. Bridges, Cleveland did not, and Emily, Cleveland and Jack and Max, Cleveland did not join until 1972. So that was, when I was reading the minutes, that was interesting to see the conversation. The issue then, as it is now, is they wanted to be part of the Appalachian Regional Commission in 1972. And so I thought that was an interesting piece of history to note. But we actually, except for maybe 3 towns in the entire region, all the towns are members of our board as well. Next. Our revenue sources are 84% federal, 8% state, and the balance of what we collect are local or program income issues. Our revenues right now do have some appropriated fund balance. Those are housing fund balance dollars being used as we transition our housing department. Next. And how we spend it, essentially the majority of our funds are spent on housing, the Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher Program. Aging would be next, and then Workforce Board. And Workforce is probably the most flexible. We've had a Workforce Board where we've had probably 48% of our budget was Workforce Board. And I think those who have lived in the region for a long time, on the job OJT dollars and dislocated worker dollars have been huge dollars that have been used by us in the past 25 to 30 years. I would say, considering the current state of things, that we will probably see an uptick in a lot of that, and as we move into 2021. Next, please. Just some information to let you folks know we are a hybrid structure. We do have a tax exempt status as well. We do use fund accounting and governmental accounting. However, we manage cash and cash flow much like a business. We're chasing receivables on a monthly basis. That'll shake his head to that. He's learning that on a daily basis. But we're chasing our receivables back from those dollars to make sure that after we've paid, we get that recovered. We are subject to a single audit, a federal single audit, and they'll pick one of our divisions at any one time, our auditors, and we allocate our overhead using what's called an indirect cost. So each of those programs, anything that you guys pay on single services are have a overhead or indirect reflection, and that's what pays for the building and the overhead. Next, please. You folks are you know that we do workforce and aging grants. Those are the big dollars that come through and go on Section 8 housing. Those vouchers that go to the individuals is around $6.5 million. And then we have other grants that may come and go on a yearly basis. We may have a lot, and then we may have a few. Next. We have a 35-member board of directors, 8-member executive committee elected by the board of directors. And as of July 1st, 2020, we had 30 full-time and 5 part-time employees. And that has been part of our capacity building so that we can serve our membership better, as well as other programs. Next, please. Next, that's an outline of how it works. So these are the things that we do, and we're going to jump into these next areas with having each of our folks come up and talk about them. Aging, community and economic development, that's our grant end GIS. We are also the rural planning organization for DOT planning in the region for the 3 counties of McDowell, Polk, and Rutherford. Cleveland is part of an MPO that includes Gaston and Lincoln. We do technical, administrative, and financial services. So the board knows, I just signed a contract with the local government commission. We are now the finance officers for Kingstown at the request of the LGC. And so we are working with the LGC in Kingstown on that right now. That's our latest financial services that we're working on. And of course, we manage the Workforce Development Board, which is a separate board. I didn't know how many of y'all knew that, but the Regency Workforce Development Board is actually named by all 4 counties. Their membership there, it's mostly private, 52%, and the rest public. But we manage that program through our offices. Steve happens to be the director of that. Go ahead, Sarah.
Scott, let me add a piece of trivia to that. In '72, a lot of counties and towns joined the LROs because the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration required that their grants be funneled through LROs and regional organizations. Cleveland County joined then, and I think, Commissioner, if you need to correct me, right after that, we got the grant for a new courthouse and countywide communications and a number of things through IPDC.
I think that is correct, Mr. Hopper. One of the reasons they enjoined that 159 section was to bring other things that were coming through block grant methods through the federal government down through the state and then distributed regionally. So things like you just mentioned, we've probably had over our lifespan 50 different programs that have run through here. And that's been over our whole tenure. So it's been a lot, and I appreciate that, Mr. Hopper, bringing that back up. At this time, we're going to go through the Area Agency on Aging, and we have our director, Laura Lynch, with us, and she's going to go through her program. So here's the first slide, and Laura, take it away.
Hi, good to be here. Scott asked me to hold it down to like 3, 4, 5 minutes, so I'm going to try really hard to do that. If you have questions afterwards, please ask. After 20 years, I still enjoy talking about it, and I'm still really proud of what we do. But on this first slide, I have only listed the Home and Community Care Block Grant total. There's certainly more dollars that come into the Area Agency on Aging other than the block grant dollars, but those are the ones that I feel like most of you are familiar with, because those are the dollars that provide congregate meals and in-home aid, home delivered meals, adult daycare, senior transportation. I feel like that's just probably the programs that we operate that you are the most familiar with. And this was our block grant figure for, it says, 16-17, but that's actually 19-20, 1.9 million. Also, in addition to administering the block grant, we have the Office of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman in our department. That is for individuals to call. Those folks in our department address any concern whatsoever in any long-term care setting, whether that be assisted living or long-term care skilled nursing facility. We also have the family caregiver program within our department, the Title V older worker program, which I'm sure several of you are familiar with because you probably have some of our Title V participants actually in your senior centers, your libraries, in the schools. We also do evidence-based health promotion programs. We're trained to do those programs out in the community. They address diabetes, they address any long-term chronic illness, falls, anything like that. We contract with people to teach those, but we actually teach them as well. And we also have the LCA, what is known as LCA. That is a transition process for anyone who would like to transition out of a long-term care setting. We have counselors who will go in and try really hard to work with those individuals and the families in the communities in which they live. So hopefully, if at all possible, they can transition out of a long-term care setting.
Next, please.
This is just a really quick list of our aging partners, our contract partners in each of our counties. We do have smaller contracts that I haven't listed, but these again are the ones that I feel like you would be most familiar with and the ones who do offer the bulk of our programs.
Next, please.
I just used these 4 slides to list the top aging services in each of your respective counties, just so you could get a quick glance at where those block grant dollars that I mentioned first and foremost, where those block grant dollars are mainly being utilized. These numbers probably are a little bit different than what you're used to seeing in previous years, because, for example, due to COVID, we aren't transporting as many individuals. We had many days where many weeks actually, where our adult days were closed by legislative mandate. We have, though, our senior centers have gone above and beyond to power out the meals. None of our home delivered clients nor our congregate clients have gone without any meals. Actually, due to CARES funding and Families First funding, they have all kicked it up a notch and are providing more meals for more individuals than we ever have before, like I said, probably in 21 years. And that's just a wonderful thing to know that that service is and will continue irregardless.
Next, please.
Those are our McDowell primary top services for this past year. There, of course, is Polk and Rutherford. I've made little notes. If you have a few minutes and want to take a look, a couple of our counties did actually utilize the Families First funding and the CARES funding before June 30. 2 of our other senior centers did not actually need to access that before the end of the fiscal year, but all of those dollars, all of the Family First dollars, which were strictly for nutrition, all of those dollars have been expended and thousands and thousands of meals went out. We are currently still utilizing the CARES dollars, and we don't have any service provider whatsoever who feels like they're financially strapped in the way of needing to provide our meals. So we feel really good about that.
Next, please.
Oh, it's got a little ahead of me. The Ombudsman program, that's the program again that I talked about early on. This is our Ombudsman, or 2 individuals in our office who will go out, like I said, and investigate any complaint whatsoever, no matter how small, in any long-term care setting. Again, these numbers are significantly different than they have been in years past, because we've not been allowed to go into any long-term care facility for quite a long time. We currently are allowed to go in if it is a complaint or investigation that we feel like we can't handle using technology. And as of today, we have not yet had any complaint or investigation that we've not been able to handle in that manner. So all complaints have been addressed throughout the COVID event.
Next, please.
The last thing that we put on a slide, just like I said, because I feel like a lot of you are so familiar with the Title V older worker program, our Title V participants who work in your agencies have not been allowed to actually go to their host job site throughout the COVID event. However, the state has continued to pay them just as if they are on the job site. And our staff here in our department who works with our Title V participants have continued to support them in providing annual physicals, eyeglass appointments. We've actually been able also, which we've done several years in the past, but we always try to provide heating support. We've provided some power bill support and those kind of things that, you know, are very, very basic needs. None of that has stopped. We've still been able to continue to do that for them, and they have continued to be able to draw their 20-hour week just like they were on the job site.
Any questions for Laura on that program before we jump into HCV? All right, good. Thanks, Laura.
You're welcome.
Pam, come on up. I think most of you folks know Pam Hall. She's been the interim director of housing and has been a fixture in our housing department for quite a few years. I won't say the number of years because she would get mad at me if I did that. But our Housing Choice Voucher Program is our single largest program in dollar value. It is mostly 90 some odd percent in out. So the money comes in, the money goes out as a voucher. But there is a large administrative, especially a lot of time into housing. So Pam's going to talk about her program. Pam?
Thank you for showing up today. But the main areas of our program is HUD has allocated us with 1,408 vouchers, and as of calendar year 2019, we averaged about 1,180 per month. We are under lease right now. Due to COVID, one of the things, we are having a difficult time finding adequate housing. So we are looking to work with an owner in the area to help us locate more affordable housing, get that out on the market. And so the other change for us is that the Rutherford office has become the hub for all of our other housing offices. We still have satellite offices in the other counties, and we use those as needed to meet with our families, so they do not have to drive all the way to Rutherfordton. Next slide, please. The basic programs that we do offer through the Housing Choice Voucher Program, we do have a VASH program where we do partner with the VA office, and currently we have 25 vouchers that we are working with the VASH families. We have a few openings, and hopefully that is something we will be able to up those numbers in the future. We also have a family self-sufficiency program. The main goal of that is to help families become self-sufficient and hopefully graduate off of the need for housing assistance. That is a voluntary program. No one is forced to participate. It is voluntary. Currently, we have 35 slots. And we also have a homeownership program, which people are able to use, our families are able to use the vouchers that they have for rental assistance if they qualify towards home ownership. We currently have no families in that program right now, but that is something that is available for eligible families. Next slide. These are some of our partners in each county that we work with. We are open to working with anyone that can offer services to our families. We're just here open, ready to be of service to our families. We have, as Laura mentioned, during COVID, we have seen the need, our housing assistance, as far as people that were working, losing those jobs, and we've seen our subsidy increase due to that. We're just thankful to be here and to serve, and thank you for your time today.
Does anyone have any questions, Pam? Mr. Chairman, I think it'd be good to note that the executive committee at its meeting of November 12th, which was continued to this morning at 11, we have finalized a contract with Champion Investments of Shelby, who is a rental management company. We went out to bid in the beginning of the summer for companies and consultants and those kinds of folks to help us bridge the 250 voucher unit gap that we have right now. We have enough vouchers for 1408, but we are running shy of that because of a lack of product or a willingness to become part of our program. So we engaged the executive committee, entered into authorized myself to enter into a contract with Champion Investments out of Shelby to help us improve that by 250 plus units into our system. Most of that is going to be about, I think there's probably enough product out there of convincing people that our program is good. It's a steady payer, what our inspection levels are, and the kinds of ways that we can work with landlords to make some of this product more available. So I thought it was a good time to mention that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
We're leaving a lot of money on the table, and we need to see if we pick those things up.
I think that's a good point, Mr. Chairman. What we're finding is if we don't get those lease ups, so you understand how the business model works, we get an overhead amount. We have a fixed overhead in people, building time, materials, and in order to process vouchers, to process all the things that we do and to go through that system. And when we're not at maximum lease up, we're losing. It was reported out to the board at their November, to the executive committee at their November meeting, and again this morning before they entered into that contract. We've probably left about 500,000 on the table, and if we didn't get these things leased up, we could be leaving up to 750 to 800,000 on the table. So this effort to enter into this contract with Champion is a way to improve that position so that we're not losing those administrative dollars, and so that we can do more, as Steve was talking about in the 5-year housing plan, and then what Pam's group and Steve's group has been working on with the housing task force, finding more housing in our region, building more housing in our region, and building that capacity up. So thank you for noting that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for
yes,
all
yes,
the
sir.
work.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Sir. At this time, our next section is administrative and financial services. I'll just go over a few of these things. We've done these kinds of administrative services for folks on some on an ongoing basis, some on a as needed basis, but interim town management services, financial services, as it was reported out earlier, we are currently assisting the LGC as the finance officer for the town of Kingstown. We've done that in the past for Grover. We've also provided back office support, financial office support for Rutherfordton was one example of a group that we've done. We do it for Spindale and some of our other membership around. We also do other things for just basic staff support and fiscal agent services for not-for-profits. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn this over to Steve. Steve is the Director of Economic, Community, and Workforce Development. We put all those together when Steve came on board several years ago now, 4 years ago now. And so Steve is in charge of probably the area that you folks interact with mostly as member governments, and Steve and has been building capacity in his staff to provide a lot of services that we do. So I'm going to turn this over to Steve.
So as Scott mentioned, we do a number of things that interact with a lot of you on a regular basis. I've got a number of slides here. I'm just going to kind of hit some high points, but Scott's right. I've been here for 4 years, and I think we've done a lot in that time. And this year has been very interesting with COVID. We spent a good deal of the first half of the year working with a number of our member governments and our businesses in the region to push out business assistance programs, other things that were helping those businesses that were hit very hard by COVID, especially PPP, all the different types of SBA grant programs. We served as a resource if people need to call and talk to us. We did a great job, or my staff did a great job in keeping our website and Facebook updated on all the most current information. we've really tried to keep on top of that for everybody. We've been on the lookout for any type of funding that could assist local governments during this difficult time, and we will continue to do so over the next year because we know that we'll be living with COVID for at least a little while longer. So we will be keeping on top of that. But despite COVID and despite working remotely for a good portion of the year, our departments have not been slow. We have kept very, very busy. Sarah, you can jump ahead to the next slide. I'll start with economic development stuff. We have been staying busy with ARC projects. We have a number of new ones that have come up or just been approved over the last couple months, one around broadband, one around an access road to the Rutherfordton Industrial Park. We have a number of ongoing ones around wellness and small business assistance. We still waiting for EDA to approve us as an economic development district, or EDD. This application went in last fall, and we had anticipated that this prior spring when we would be actually recognized as an EDD. But then when COVID hit, we were basically told our application was on the back burner while EDA had to focus on recovery efforts. But we've been in correspondence with EDA quite a bit over the last few months. And I know as of last week, it is still working its way up the chain of command. I think it's up in DC for review right now. So if things still hold, I hope that by spring of 21, we will have that designation. We can finally get that done. We do a number of technical assistance projects with Spindale, with Boiling Springs. We always have that option open for any of our member governments to help out. As you can see, there's a list of identified projects and potential projects over this year and next year. You can read them at your leisure. We will definitely have those available for you, or we can have it for you now. Next slide. Workforce, we've been very busy, although it's interesting with workforce, as Scott alluded to. In difficult times, workforce budget can grow very large if there are federal or state programs that come through. Certainly during the Great Recession, around 2010, we had a huge budget and did a lot of assistance with those who were displaced from losing jobs during that time. We have not seen too much extra funding come down related to COVID, but we have been working with a lot of our businesses on trying to make sure that they keep people either employed or get new people, because we actually have not been hit as hard in our manufacturing sector in our region as I had feared, which is really good. We've actually held pretty steady, and we are kind of in the point now where, while there's still a lot of people who are having trouble finding work for a variety of reasons, there are a lot of employers who are looking for people. So we are holding hiring events, we're holding job fairs, we're doing kind of innovative ways. We've done virtual job fairs, we've done drive-through job fairs in Cleveland at places where we can have a lot of people congregate in parking lots and literally drive through for job fairs. So all of our workforce team has been kept very busy. We look to, in 2021, really ramp up our business engagement efforts. Before I forget, for those of you who have been around a long time and know Bill Robertson, who has been in IPDC for years, and prior to me was the workforce director. Bill is finally officially retiring at the end of this month. He's been semi-retired for about 5 years now, but still working with us part-time. So as of the end of December, he will be fully retiring. So I encourage all of you who know Bill to reach out to him and give him your best, because it is going to be difficult without him, but we do wish him the best of luck in not worrying about us every single day and really enjoying life. Next slide, please, Sarah. Again, there are a couple issues that not issues, but things we're looking at for next year in workforce. Our career center in Shelby, the lease is up, and we are going to have to work with Department of Commerce on either renewing that lease in its current location or finding a new spot for that office. I anticipate that this will kind of ramp up in late January, early February. So if anybody knows of any buildings that they'd like to promote for that location, I'm all ears. We have a number of career pathways that you all know about that we've had for a few years, and we're looking at maybe building another one around human services, and we would actually be doing that with a couple of the other workforce boards in our region. As I mentioned, I'd like to engage our business, or I'd like to expand our business engagement services, working with our regional employers. We do a good job of that now, but I think that there's room for growth. And so I have two of our workforce people, Brandon Roop and Sarah Crank, working on that. And we're trying to figure out a good strategy for 21. Next slide, please. Keep going. Keep going. Those are just our general programs. Keep going. For those of you who are curious about any of these programs or any of our metrics around how many people we serve, what our unemployment rate is in the region, all that, please reach out to me. I can get you all that information. One thing I want to jump into before I get into community development is, I forgot to mention this earlier. As you all know, we've been working on, as we become an economic development district, we've been operating off our regional economic development strategy that was developed under the Set 5 program back in 2016, and I believe finalized early 2017. Starting in 2021, Sarah Compkin and I will be developing the new Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, for our region. This is our new 5-year plan that is required by EDA. And we know that this will be a long process. So starting in January, we're going to kick that off. And I know that we'll be engaging with each and every one of you and all of our members on this. So please stay tuned to that. This is going to be a process that takes probably most of next year, because we want to make sure that we have all the right information, that we speak with everybody, and that we have a really strong strategy for the next 5 years for our region. Community development, as we discussed earlier today, our department worked closely with Pam and her department to develop the 5-year housing plan and the annual plan. We also have administered or continue to administer the CDBG Neighborhood Revitalization Program for Rutherford. We were approached from a number of members about possibly preparing for future CDBG applications, and we're in the process of working with some members on that. We have expanded our community development / housing partnership with Pam and her group through the applying for the McDowell ESFRL program, which is the essential single family rehab loan pool. And we applied for and received on behalf of McDowell County this grant, which we're administering through IPDC. We're looking to do that for our other counties as well, and I believe that Polk and Rutherford are able to apply for that this upcoming year. 2 programs we're working on now. As you'll recall from the last meeting, the HUD mobility grant, we got from all of you a resolution in support of that application that is due February 1st. And what that would do is that would allow us to greatly expand the number of folks that we assist in the region. And what that program does is actually help people move from one area to another, literally be mobile to another region, to offer them a better quality of life in that new location. So we're hoping to be chosen as one of these trial areas under the mobility grant. And this is actually a 6-year grant, so it should be really interesting if we get this. The other thing that we're going to be working on over the next few months, and actually most of next year, is working with HUD to become a home consortium. This would allow IPDC to really tackle a lot of housing projects in the region, that it would allow us to have a pot of money that we could use as kind of a leverage for various housing projects in the region. So again, starting in January, we'll be coming to all of you regarding this. So keep that in the back of your mind, and we will be sharing more information that in early 2021. Next slide, please. The Housing Task Force has been working for a little over a year now, and our two co-chairs have been Doug Barrick from the town of Rutherfordton and Craig Hilton from Polk County. And really what this group has done is worked to really identify some of those broad, large housing issues that are true across our 4 counties. As you all know, housing is a big issue and it's a complex issue. And there's no one silver bullet or there's no one project that's going to solve everything. So what this task force has been working on this year is kind of finding information that is pertinent to our region and really developing a strategy for how we can tackle this as a region with IPDC as the cornerstone. So Sarah Compkin has been very instrumental in working on this task force. And we, between the two of us, we're working on a final strategy for the task force that should be done in January, which should guide the efforts of the task force in 2021. Next slide. The RPO, many of you know Carol Fuller. She is the director of the Rural Planning Organization, which covers Polk, Rutherford, and McDowell counties. DOT, North Carolina DOT has of course been hit rather hard financially, but she continues to work very hard on all the existing projects. And I know that she's going to have an update in January at her January meeting for any kind of projects that are going to be ongoing in next year and any kind of news about DOT. Next slide. Keep going. Here are a list of current projects that Carol's working on. I'm not quite as familiar with them as she is, so if there are any questions specifically about them, I would suggest reaching out to Carol. Let's keep going. Technical assistance, Scott touched on this. You know, this is something that we do and that we can do for all of our members. We can work on a variety of projects that assist and support our local governments. For instance, we're helping a number of our members with the 160D update that's due by July 1st of 2021. You know, whether it's getting those ordinances in place, whether it's working on land use plans, regional plans, zoning plans, meeting facilitation, grant writing. That's what we're here for. That's what we're good at. And those are the services that we offer. And I think, is that it? Is there another slide, Sarah? And that's just a list of some of our technical assistance projects that we're working on. So I know that was a lot and that was really quick, but our departments are working really hard and staying very busy during COVID. And we've been able to adapt to everything that's been thrown at us with the assistance of Scott and Thad, making sure that all of us have the ability to work remotely. And I got to say that my group has been very on the ball. We've been actually, I think, even more efficient working remotely because we are on Teams and we're on Zoom all the time and we're always staying in touch. So, you know, we're keeping busy. And if you have any questions about anything specific or anything related to what I've discussed, please reach out to me.
Thank you, Steve. Scott, what else do you have?
Okay, just to remind everyone, Steve and his team will be reaching out to work with you folks starting in January to update our regional economic development strategy. Next slide, please, Sarah. And next one. Next one. Next one. One thing I did want to highlight is just, I want to reiterate, not only Steve's team, but every one of our teams has had to deal with COVID in a different way. In so much that Pam's housing group, we've had a shortage of product for people to get into, but we've also been monitoring landlords and our voucher holders on any potential eviction issues, which we feel are now going to begin to ramp up. So these are the kinds of things we need you guys to be keeping your ears to the ground on. What are you hearing in your community about evictions, about utilities and things like that? There are some programs out there that we can point people to, but I think this is going to be an area of response that we're going to have to all deal with from a senior perspective with Laura's crowd, from a basic working perspective from Pam's crowd and housing, as well as fees and grants and things like that. We've tried to maintain a page for you folks on our webpage on this, and we tried to update both it and the Facebook page that we have for IPDC on the latest information that we have, be they job fairs, be they grant opportunities, be they eviction rules, the latest from the governor on what they're doing or anything like that. So we have tried to pay attention to that. As a practical matter, our office is quote unquote closed and by appointment only. We're communicating, we're probably at about 85% remote. We're going to inch that up a bit. Our team is beginning to work on making sure we have the materials and goods to be a bit more remote during this next month and a half or so as things really begin to ramp up. But anyways, we wanted to highlight the COVID-19 response. And I'll tell you, we've been hooked up with or talking to all you folks out there. I think all of our folks, all of our counties and our towns, all of our partners in the region have really been trying to work together to make sure that we're filling those spots and filling in those holes and sharing information. Our chambers have been great about it. Folks have been on some great calls and have really been working towards working together on the response. I also want to do again a shout out to Carol Pritchett and Scott Niesler, who put together with all the mayors and chairs in our region our legislative agenda. While it says COVID, one of the things I think we should remember, and EDA is probably going to remind us of this when we become an EDD, is about resiliency planning and emergency planning moving forward. I think it's going to be, those are going to be some important elements for us to work with you all on. Next one, please. Next. Okay, this is the last thing, and then I'm going to be done. So Sarah, we can come off of this one. We are trying to plan the next gathering for our legislature at the end of February. I will tell you, I am not sure if that will be virtual or in person. My bet is probably virtual. But that has become a moment of pride for us here at the COG or at the commission. Because we will have our 4th annual legislative gathering. We've got some new faces, so we're going to try to figure out new ways to integrate that. Be looking towards the end of February. If gathering live is more possible, more into March a little bit, we may go ahead and push it into that just to have the opportunity to gather together. So I wanted to let you all know that that is not lost on any of us. We want to make sure that we have a gathering of some type that represents the region's legislative goals that we hear from our state and federal legislative group and staff, and that we have an opportunity to engage them. That is all for me, Mr. Chairman, and for our staff. That really concludes everything we have to present to you.
Thank you, Scott. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point. I'd like
right ahead.
for the board to adopt a resolution thanking Bill for his many years of service and praising him for his dedication. He's been a fixture for all the 16, 20 years or however many years I've been associated with isothermal. And I think that it would be appropriate for this board to recognize him in a resolution and ask the executive director to draft it and print it up and present it to him at whatever retirement observance is appropriate.
That'd be a nice gesture,
Completely. I
I
completely
make that
agree. That's a
informed.
great idea. Second.
You want to take a vote, Scott? You're muted.
I'm usually yelling at everybody else to unmute. I think I would just ask if anybody's opposed to that.
Don't think anybody is.
Okay, we'll draft it up and have it done and put it into the minutes of this meeting.
Great. I have a question of you.
Yes, sir.
you have to run around, scurry around to get people to sign documents. Can you pursue electronic signature for documents?
Actually, yes, sir. I believe we have the ability through Adobe to do that. Is that correct, Steve?
We have both Adobe Sign and DocuSign that we can utilize.
Okay. Just thought that might save you some legwork.
Fred, I like coming to see you anyway, so you know.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's all right. You can continue to do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Ah,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jimmy.
this is Jimmy and Rosen. Before we close up shop, I think we ought to remember to give our thanks and remember in our prayers Mr. Steve Garrison, County Manager for Rutherford County. His father passed away last week, so I think we need to be sure to remember him.
Thank you, Jimmy. Anybody got anything else? If that, our next executive meeting is February 11 at noon. Do we have a date for the next full board meeting, Scott?
yes, sir. That'll be in March.
Okay. And something will be sent out on that for that date.
Yes, sir. And then your legislative breakfast is tentatively for February 22nd.
22nd or 11th?
22nd.
Oh, excuse me, 22nd. I got it. All right, 22nd. All right, anything else? Have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Second?
I make that motion.
All right, all in favor, let's go. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
everyone.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.